Okay, let's get going. Good morning again, everyone. Welcome to you all. As I have been saying on all these webinars, wherever in the world you're dialing in from, and we have a diverse range of people in terms of their geographies and their backgrounds, so you're all very welcome. If you don't know me, I'm Graham Canning, and it's my pleasure to be hosting this webinar today. I work for People-Centered Excellence. As you can see, we're running this series of webinars. This is our fifth one in our what we've been calling Out of the Crisis webinar series. Today, I've got the pleasure of introducing optimization expert and lean coach, DJ Duarte. Hi, DJ.
Hey, konnichiwa from Japan.
So yeah, DJ's over in Japan. And what time is it currently, DJ, over there?
7:01 right about now.
Okay, right, fantastic.
In the evening, yeah.
In the evening, yeah. Okay. So 8 hours ahead of the UK.
Yeah.
Now I think I'm right in thinking, DJ, Japan's been your home for what, over 30 years? Is that right?
Yeah, 34 to be exact. Yeah,
wow,
34
okay.
years.
So we could probably talk about the culture of Japan for the next 45 minutes, but that's not the purpose of this webinar. So
I agree.
So let's introduce DJ. Let me tell you a little bit about him. So he's the owner and founder of Makoto Flow, which he formed in 2016. His career in lean spans 34 years. Difficult to believe, but that's what he tells me. And previously, he ran Makoto Investments and the Kaizen Institute in Asia. The network over there was across 5 countries at that time. And before that, he was the Director of Improvement and Innovation in leading strategic improvement initiatives in Asia and North America for the US Department of Defense. So I'm sure, again, he could tell us some very interesting experiences of that. DJ's consultancy experience is one of the widest and deepest portfolios of experience I think I've ever seen. He's worked in many different industries: aviation, healthcare, financial services. So he's not just a manufacturing guy. He's applied this thinking across many different areas. And his knowledge and application of improvement strategies and supporting methodologies is second to none as well. DJ spends a lot of his time these days coaching and mentoring lean leaders and speaks at global events and conventions, such as ones on operational excellence, lean design, leadership and coaching, and the list goes on. So DJ is one of the foremost thinkers and speakers on organizational change and process optimization. And we're absolutely delighted that he's with us on this webinar, and hopefully working with DJ on future collaborations. So do watch this space on that. So again, just to reiterate, we're delighted he's joined us to share his insights on how we can all apply lean thinking in different ways to provide a countermeasure to the current global challenges. Okay, DJ, the floor is yours. Over to you.
Wow. I mean, I couldn't ask for a better introduction than that, Graham. So thank you so much. And again, thank you to People-Centered Excellence for giving me this opportunity, this platform, to at least share a little bit of my experience with the world. Obviously, the entire premise behind what we're talking about today is how do we come out of this crisis? How do we reemerge better than we were before? Or at least get back to some sort of resilience of norm, right? So I'll just get right into the presentation real quick. I'm going to start off first telling you why I decided to try to do this engagement with PCE and Graham. And that is because I believe that there's a sincere opportunity here for the entire globe in whatever business that you're in to rebound, rebuild, and reimagine your business. Okay. And today, my agenda is simple. I'd like to just share with you first, gain alignment with you, if you may, about the challenges that we face. And some of you have already taken that poll, and you've already hit on one of the biggest challenges you'll see here when I get into it. But I really want to take a focus out approach so that we can focus back in. And from that, then determine what are those challenges and how do we overcome them in the best way for us. The second thing that I'd like to do today is I'd like to help you with a way forward in engaging your organization and or your business so that you have a bulletproof kind of concept ahead of you. And that means no matter what crisis comes about, you'll be able to adapt and scale to it appropriately, okay? And then finally, what I'd like to do is sort of share with you the natural outcomes that are going to happen because of what we're suggesting that you do. And this kind of 3-step process that I'm going to be sharing with you, and those natural outcomes are just things that I've learned over the years that most organizations don't do. Okay. Now, before I get into who I am a little bit more and just in brief, I just want you to know that between each one of these 3 bullets, these 3 topics that I'm going to share in my agenda, I'm going to talk for only about 5 to 8 minutes. And then I'd like to give you, those folks that are out there, the opportunity to ask the questions. So if there's anything that pops into your head and you would like to jump on that and write it into the chat box, please do. And then Graham and I will take those questions in each one of those 5 to 8 minute increments. Okay, so that we don't get bored of each other. That's the key thing. All right. So as I move forward here, why me? Some of you might be asking, okay, who is DJ Duarte and why? I'll just tell you, I'm 54 years young. I've traveled the world. I've done a lot of different things. I have 4 different senseis. I just picked up a new one last month, and they're helping me on my journey. They're helping me to rediscover the true meaning behind TPS and the impact it has in driving lean optimizations, okay? And I have a career that spans from the military, from the U.S. government, as well as being in the U.S. Marine Corps for 11 years, 4 months, and 2 beautiful days. But I also decided I needed to leave the government to challenge myself to see if what I know and who has taught me all these things, from Dr. Deming that I learned from directly, as well as some of these other senseis that I have, that it can have an impact in real business. And so since then, I've actually worked with 17 of the 19 most profitable industries, as Graham was sharing earlier. And I've worked for Packard truck companies, automotive supplier companies, you name it, okay? And some of the things that I love to do is watch baseball, my local team here in Hiroshima, which is the Hiroshima Carp. And I feel I'm a connoisseur in ramen. So if you ever head to Japan and you get the opportunity to be on one of my tours or just visiting, make sure you drop me a line and we'll go have some ramen together, that's for sure. So enough about me at the moment, but why us? Why my organization and the 26 other collaborative partners I have globally, 3 which are resident there in the UK. It's because we're trying to educate, engage, and expose the best practices that are out there in industry today. Now, we do that in a very systematic way. We focus on trying to get the TPS principles and practices into the DNA of companies and cultures. Yeah. So we're not in any way trying to say cookie cut this and do that. No, everybody's unique, but these principles and practices that are time tested work well. And we always focus with the customer, work around to where we work on the way that standardization is happening, the work that's actually being done. And then we get the people involved. And through their involvement, we know that we link it to the strategy. So that's pretty much what we do in a nutshell. Now, my company only provides 4 services. The first service is optimization consulting. Similar to this, virtual as well as on-site. But then the second thing that we do is we do these tours to Japan. We either do a private tour or we do public tours for most of my clients during their transformational engagements. And I have access to about 250 companies just here in Japan building those relationships. And then number 3 is we do lean coaching, both one-on-one as well as with groups. And so we try to just get that energy flowing for whatever purpose they're trying to achieve through that coaching methodology. And then last but not least, of course, we've got workshops, and that's part of what we do. Notice I didn't say training. In fact, we call it ignite your talent. We're not worried about training your people. We're worried about getting them engaged. So we'll talk for 20 minutes and go execute for 3 hours. And that's how we believe the application gets into the mindset. Yeah. So that's pretty much who I am and what we're all about and why I'm here. Okay. So let's get into the actual webinar itself and the purpose behind it. Okay. So let's gain a true north agreement amongst us, because I'm not right. I just have a perspective on something, and I learn just like you do by hearing your insights. Okay. So the rationale that I see up front is that if we can say that there are some safe assumptions we all agree upon, then we can then apply the right methodologies to reemerge better and stronger in the future. So a couple of the things that I see in these challenges, and I'll go one by one, and then we'll see if you agree with it, okay? Number one is the uncertainty of demand. Now, some businesses during this crisis have actually increased their demands. There's more work for them, and so their systems have been just running all the time. And you can see that with a lot of the businesses that are providing food and healthcare and medical type of things, right? But then there are other organizations, manufacturing, service related, whatever it might be, that their demand it's uncertain. We don't know if it's going to pick back up to the norm, if it's going to stay down low, or if it's going to go even lower than what it is today. And that's the biggest chunk that came out of there. And interesting enough, when I was watching the poll, the first 7 people clicked this one. So I think we have at least that kind of true north alignment. Yeah. But then there are some others that are just as important and just as impactful. And the second one is the customer behavior patterns. You can probably see that in the last 4 months, we have changed the way we do business because of the crisis and the shutdown. Country to country, business to business, client to client. Yeah. And so our business can no longer be this 100% of our talent goes to work and then they go home at night. We're going to have to transition to some sort of new model because of this purchasing kind of consumer behavior patterns that we're going to have to adapt to. And we're going to have to change our own systems to make that happen as well. The third thing that comes up is typically, and I apologize, but I can't really see the bottom of the slide here. But it says, yeah, there you go. Supply chain challenges. So everybody can see that China is no longer going to be the major supplier. Everybody's pulling back. They're going into different regions of the world, whether it be Myanmar, India, or in their own home countries. And so the supply chain challenges now is how do we build that capability back up to meet both the customer demands as well as the uncertainty of those demands, yeah, those different uniquenesses. And then the third thing is that the markets themselves are so volatile that businesses are now deciding, oh, I better not do this, or oh, this is not the right time to do that. So they're very conservative at this point, or they're just being aggressive because this is also a time to be able to go out and merge and acquire other businesses because of the downturn for those unique businesses. But the volatility in that market is causing a lot of uncertainty around the globe. And of course, we know what VUCA means, and this is pretty much going in the same paradigm as VUCA. And then the fifth one that comes up here is, just don't touch it and it will be okay, I guess, is the need for digital solutions. I think we've taken a leap in the last 4 months, the greatest leap in digital technology in the last 4 months by far than the history of digital technology. People are now realizing there are businesses, practices, processes, capabilities that can be done in a different way. And now we have to decide what are the best ways to adopt those type of digital solutions. And finally, we're going to be talking about that talent, because as you all know, a lot of the organizations out there are furloughing or retrenching individuals as we speak. And they're going to be turning their systems back on. They're going to be bringing people back, but the likelihood is it's not going to come back 100%. And so we have to understand that there's going to be a lot of talent out there that's going to need employment. And we need to also realize that we're losing some of that talent so that we're challenged with now creating that skill set again. Yeah. So when I look at the uncertainty in the market and we have these safe assumptions, I can also say, because of them, that each one of them is a challenge to us, but also is disguised as an opportunity. And I'd like to just talk about 3 of them real quick. The first one is all that unpredictability, both in demand from the customer, as well as the volatility in the market, as well as the uncertainty of demand. That is an opportunity for us to really revisit our business, our practices, our core engagement strategies for our clients. Yeah. This allows us to now look at what do we need to stop doing because it isn't going to work anymore? Or what do we need to reinvent or possibly even re-engineer to make it more consumer friendly? And so to me, this is the question that most of the leaders, both mid-level and senior within organizations, are going to have to make to survive in this very volatile period in time frame. Yeah. The second thing is those remote modeling models. who's going to work from home, who's going to work in the traditional settings. What is that going to be like? I know it's not going back to the 100%. It might be a 90-10, it might be an 80-20. I've even seen articles written where it said 60-40. Yeah. So everything that I'm actually bringing to you right now is not DJ speaking in itself. It's my research over the last 3 months through both McKinsey as well as Deloitte and as well as PwC, finding out how they're analyzing the marketplaces and the different industries and how they're tackling it. And this is one of the key ones. Businesses are learning that we can take advantage of having people work from home in a more effective and efficient way. There's a company here in Japan called Rakuten. You may have heard of it. It's getting global recognition. I know they own some sort of football club. I want to get that right because I don't want to say soccer, but a football club out there in the UK. And they're trying to be as versatile in their engagement strategies as any other e-commerce kind of organization I've seen in a while. So they're learning to work from home. And finally, there's that shift in the customer patterns. To me, this is an opportunity to reimagine our customer journey. It's an opportunity for us to actually look at our end-to-end value chain and value streams and that entire customer journey that engages it, and see what we can do to maximize it and better provide that customer experience for who we serve. Okay, so these are just the basic challenges that are out there, and I'm thinking we have some agreement here, but I'd really like to know your thoughts if there's anything else. So with that, I'd like to ask this question to you. What other challenges do you see that we might be facing in the coming weeks, months, and maybe even a year with this crisis? And if you have any kind of thoughts, please drop your questions in the chat box there, or do they have an opportunity to raise their hands here? No. Yeah.
Just on the chat for now. We can't see everybody. But what I will do while we're just waiting for people to put something in the chat area, let's just feed back the results of that poll. And
okay.
You never know when you put these together quite what you're going to get. But I wasn't expecting something quite so strongly biased towards the uncertainty of demand and market volatility. So 81% of our respondents so far have said that that's their biggest challenge. And I suppose with the benefit of reflection, that's understandable in terms of where people are in the here and now.
Sure, absolutely. And, you know, it really does change depending on where you are in the world, correct? So if you're a mom and pop store and you happen to be right there in the corner store, you're just trying to focus there in your community and buy all of your items from there and order it and ship it right there. Mm. But when you're a global organization that are working in 15, 20 countries, that's entirely different. Your volatility now is increased dramatically. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I mean, again, just on that, I don't want to labor on that too much, but what the call out for me is, based on the slide that you showed earlier, DJ, was just be cognizant that that's not the only challenge. It might be the single biggest one that's that you're facing right now, but if you're not giving consideration to some of this other stuff, you could get caught out quite quickly as well when some of these other things start to emerge. So, yeah, okay.
Spider web. It's a spider web.
Yeah. So we got a couple of responses to the Q&A. We've got supply chain disruption as one of the challenges. Any thoughts on that, okay, DJ?
Yeah. Well, first of all, all I can do is I can speak from my experience in engaging what Toyota does. Okay. So that's where some of my history has basically been taught by 4 different Toyota senseis. And so when they have supply chain disruptions, the entire company comes together to support the supply chain. So it doesn't matter where it's at in the world, they will send people to that location to get that system up and running as fast as possible. And here in Japan specifically, I think many of you can relate that there have been a lot of different crises, from tsunamis to earthquakes to, just the 2008 crisis itself, the Lehman shock. And each time they've emerged stronger because of their ability to go out and help their supply chain. They'll shut down their factories for 2 weeks to get their supply chain back up and running. And I think what that sends is the message of this: the system is more important than the actual factory. The entire system is what matters. And so I would tell everyone to take an end-to-end perspective on that. to start working up your supply chain. And of course, the other thing is you have to diversify it. You have to get those right strategic stakeholders and suppliers within your system to know how frequent they need to be delivering their demand to you. So I hope I answered that question.
I think so. There's another one that kind of follows on from that as well, and that's which you mentioned before about people kind of onshoring work, and we've got a couple of points on that in terms of the challenge. Deglobalization is the term, and
Yep.
changing trade tariffs. I mean, here in the UK, the coronavirus isn't enough of a challenge for us, so we're going to give ourselves even more of a challenge at the end of this year and completely reposition ourselves globally in terms of things like trade tariffs.
Yeah, so I mean, there are a lot of governmental type of programs that are causing issues. There's a lot of economy issues that are going on, such as trade, and each one has to be handled uniquely. But again, I have to go back to something that I believe in, and that is leadership is about presence. And so the furloughing of the talent and bringing back the talent, dealing with the trade tariffs that are going to be coming out because of all of these embargoes that are happening between nations. Those are all just going to be part of business, and you have to approach it from a business standpoint. It's not personal, and you need to just organize your business to be able to engage it in that way.
Sure.
And that's the one thing that I love about Akio Toyoda. One of his comments that he made at the end of the year, which was March 31st of 2020, their fiscal year ends, and then he had his May 12th meeting, is that he said to the entire audience, the reason why we still can be successful is because we have ingrained this Toyota production system thinking, because it truly is a thinking people system. And we value everybody's growth and potential. And the words that he actually used was making things means making people. So no matter what the challenge is, take care and develop that talent to allow you to look at it differently and come up with these creative solutions to all of the challenges that exist out there today. So that's what I would leave it at.
I'm gonna ask one more, and again, with these things, you're never quite sure whether you're going to get any questions at all. And we've actually got loads of questions to get through. So I'm going to make the same pledge that we've made on previous ones, that if we don't answer your question, DJ and I will find time later on to give you some proper responses to these, because some of these are great questions. But I wanted to ask something about people before we move on to the next thing, and I know that you're going to come back to that theme.
I'm definitely going to hit it.
Well, many employees retreating back to the existing ways, getting back into their comfort zone. And again, emotionally, they've been through quite a lot of turbulence, and so work's a bit of a safe haven. How do you get those people to start embracing change and improvement for the better? This is a fantastic opportunity to do that, but you've got to be careful that you don't miss the boat.
Yeah, so I'm just going to come out and say this, that as a consultant in 2008, when the Lehman shock hit and all of this crisis with the financial markets and housing hit, in 2009 to 2014, I was probably the busiest I've ever been in my life. And that's because consistently every organization said, we have to rebuild, we have to get our talent up, we have to do this, blah, 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 right? So that's what transitioned. However, when it comes to people, Isao Kato-san once said to me 2 principles, and they hold true for anything. No involvement, no commitment. If you want people to be engaged in the spirit of changing your company to be more adaptable, more scalable, more whatever you want it to be, no matter how small it is or how big it is, you got to get them involved. Yeah. And that's what's going to get the commitment. The second thing is memorize before you customize. And what he meant was everything is designed into the TPS system a certain way, even the respect and continuous improvement aspect of TPS. So do it the way it's designed first to achieve the right results so that you're going to get it. Instead of trying to take shortcuts, make quick decisions like some companies I'm seeing right now that are just saying, guess what? We're going to furlough 2,000 people, but we're only bringing back 1,000. And they're not giving it a second thought. It's just a pure cost thing. And that's not what Toyota's doing. Toyota's sticking true to that principle that they're going to keep everybody, specifically here in Japan, because that's where the root of their company is. And they're going to try to do that globally as well. So I'd leave you with those two principles.
That's a really great answer. It's really comprehensive. Thanks, and a challenge as well to the way that people think today about doing the commoditization of people. DJ, I think we probably need to move on in terms of time. Is that okay? But again, we'll come back to some of the questions that were asked at this point. Don't worry.
Okay, so the next one is the way forward. I guess we've got some consensus that as we see that this uncertainty of demand and volatility is out there. We also know that there's disruptions in our supply chain, and we also visualize that there's opportunities for skills development. Well, the way forward has to do with correcting those things, but also all those others that I mentioned, okay? And so here I want you to talk, I want you to have a framework or a mindset around re-emerging to be more resilient, okay? And what that really means is having a plan. And for those of you that are out there, you know, plans by themselves suck. They're going to go wrong, but planning is everything. So allow me to at least share what should be in your plan. The first thing that you need to make sure that's in your plan is that you have a laser focused objectives, not these 15, 20 objectives. You need to have one, maybe two, but no more, so that everybody can get around it. The second thing that the plan needs to have, it needs to have consistent buy-in from everybody within the leadership structure, from top down, middle up, bottom up, middle down. It has to be everywhere. And the only way that happens is powerful conversations, one-on-one, engaging those groups and telling them the truth about the business and being sincere about it. The third thing your plan needs to have, it has to have an integrated approach. It can't just be one thing solves everything. For example, a lot of the people that I go and I work with, they hire me and they say, DJ, could you come in and do some Kaizen events for me? Sure, I can. I'd love to. But when I get in there, I let them know there's a bigger holistic approach to things. And you got to adapt all of the concepts, not just some of them. And that's what we're talking about, integration. You can't leave out HR. You can't leave out the IT solutions. You can't leave out procurement. You can't only just work in production. It has to be the entire end-to-end system. And that's why it needs to be integrated. The fourth thing that it needs to do is your plan has to be adaptable and it has to be scalable, which means for certain areas of the world, it's going to go just as you planned. But for other areas, it's going to go left or it's going to go right, and you got to be able to adapt to that. Toyota has opened up many plants around the world, but none of them opened up exactly the same. And all of them have their uniquenesses that cause the plan to go a little bit off track. That's all right. It's easy to get standard things back on track because you now know it. Yeah. And last but not least, I'll share with you the skills and the talent development. I think this is the component of your plan that if it's not in there, you are missing the boat. You will sink for sure, because talent is what keeps you alive. They're the ones that generate the business, the value to the business, and if you may, the oxygen to the business, which is cash flow. Cash is king. So you can do a cultural transformation, you can do a cost reduction transformation, you can do a risk transformation, a risk avoidance kind of transformation, you can a merger and acquisition kind of transformation. But if you're not engaging the people the right way with the right talents and skills, it's probably going to fall apart. So that has to be a part of your plan. And like I said, just make the plan, let it be flexible, because you will definitely update it and change it. So with the way forward, we actually have created a plan for you. In my eyes, from all of the companies that I've worked with, from Fortune 500s to all the way down to mom and pop stores, okay? I've always seen these three critical things that go wrong. And what I'd like to do with you today is help you create the thought behind a 30 and 60-day type of action plan, okay? The first thing that I really like to engage you with is create an imperative for lean, a strategic imperative for lean. Make sure that you know what your lean program is supposed to do. I was working in the Middle East, in the UAE, and had a Japanese sensei with me. And the Japanese sensei was adamant to talk to the leaders and say, what is it that you want from lean? And I didn't know exactly his intention until he came out and said it. And he said, how much money do you want to make? Or how much do you want to avoid in risk? He was very clear on that. And this one organization developed a Hoshin that drove all the lean activities to 5x their business in 1 year. 5x it. It was a $20 million company, and they were going to 5X it in 1 year. Now, they didn't make 5X in that 1 year, but they did 4.1X. So that's because everything was aligned to get you where you need to go. The second thing is, and it links directly to this imperative, is your ability to gain insights with these digital solutions that are out there. I am a hands-on guy. I believe everything needs to be done with your hands so that your mindset changes. So I use the boards, I make sure you do it on a daily basis, and so on and so on, okay? And in that, once you have the mindset engaged, digital solutions should be your next engagement. Critical ones. You should know your entire value chain and where that digital solution will help you give the most value to your customers. And that's the ones you apply. Don't apply them all. Don't try to go out there and say, get the latest RPA thing or the latest AI thing or the latest, CMMS system. Know what's going to work for your system. Get one, apply it, and help your strategic imperative with it. And then the last one here. I mean, seriously, folks, I'm a 7 Habits guy from way back when. So sharpening the saws of skill development is the key. For me, it's about making sure that you have the right people, the right talent in place to help you through these troubling times. And that is one of the messages that's so clear in the business, in the transformation worlds that I hang out in with regards to TPS. They're focused on people. And that's why I want to take the next slide to talk distinctly just about this one, because most people will just highlight it or go right over it, okay? So let me just jump into that real quick. And as you can see on the screen, I've taken this directly from a wonderful article from McKinsey, and I'll be more than glad to share the article with you, okay? So I'll make sure it gets through Graham. But the first thing that we need to do is we need to ID the skills for recovery, because we don't have all those skills. We know it, and we need to ID exactly what they are. So that means we have to assess and align, and that can be done in relatively a short period of time. We're talking days to a week. The second thing that we need to do is we need to say no regrets for the skill sets that we create as our core foundations. Every organization that I've gone into, I have had to create the core skills for sustainment of lean activities, because they had the core skills for an accountant. They had the core skills for an HR specialist. They had the core skills for an engineer, but nobody had the core skills for sustainment of lean activities. And we have to create those core. I don't care if it's 4, 6, 10, it doesn't matter. But every employee, every individual that comes into your organization gets that foundational skill. The third thing that we need to do is we need to make sure that we tailor the learning journey. So that means we launch it and we start tailoring it to our business. So that means we have to have strategic skill sets, and we have to create those skill sets. We have to look at strategic positions and say, what skill set are they missing? And then that is what we start to develop and launch immediately. The fourth thing is that we need to start looking at the entire organization as doing things now. Have a bias for action. If somebody's going to be analysis paralysis type of approach where they want to assess, put out surveys but you can have meetings with every single leader in 1 week and understand exactly how you can help your organization. And it doesn't matter if you're a 100,000 person organization or if you happen to be just a singular, business unit with 1,000 people. You know the leaders that drive your business. Interview them, do stakeholder interviews, and ask that question. What do they need to succeed? And then have a bias for action. And as you implement these skills, whether it's foundational, strategic skill sets, start coaching them. If it fails, it's okay. It's a learning point. Grow with it. Create a 1-point lesson if you may. Then the fifth one. The fifth one here, we're really talking about the mindset. And the mindset has to be this. You need burning flames of amber. Yeah? So that when you start this, they turn into the flame. But you need the amber first. And small companies have that burning desire to do stuff. So you need to think like a small company. You don't need to think like a large conglomerate around the globe. You need to think like this is us, and we need to do this together. Focus that impact with your strategy and that laser purpose in your plan, and start to execute. And last but not least, organizations in this time of period of crisis, the very first thing that they're going to do is cut training costs. You got to protect that budget. In fact, I'll tell you in my own humble opinion, you're probably going to have to increase it, because there are things you didn't even realize how bad they were inside your organization. And once you're honest with it, you know you got to develop those skills. So that's what this whole article talks about. I'll share it with you. But the skill sets is truly the catalyst to making the digital solutions as well as the execution of your strategy happen. So that's why I spent a little bit of time on it. So with that, I'd like to turn it back over to Graham and ask another question. Yeah. So I'll just lead into the question by saying, from your perspective, what stands in our way from adopting or executing this simple 3-step formula for success?
Okay, folks, over to you. Stand by for the tidal wave. But in the meantime, while we just get people to start logging those, why the 3 steps, DJ? Why were these 3 steps formulated as a way to being versatile with lean? What's the background to the thinking?
I'm not sure who's all on this, but that's a great question, Graham, because the truth of the matter is everything that I've been taught has either come to me in 3s, 5s, or 7s. And I don't know why, but if you really think about it, 3 is easy to understand, engage, and formulate for you to move forward. So when we go into an organization and you learn about the 5 S's, you actually learn the first 3, and you got to sustain the first 3 before you can actually do the other 4 and 5S. If you go into practical problem solving, you got to get the first 3 right, otherwise you're going to miss the actual problem. Even though there are 8 steps or 7 steps, you're going to miss the problem if you don't get it accurately right up front. So it has to do with focus and your ability to focus the engagement. Yeah.
Sure. Brilliant. Thank you, DJ. Okay. So a couple here, similar themes already. Lack of knowledge at the top. And a defensiveness to learning new ways.
Yeah, that is a seriously really good question, because and in this troubled time, there's going to be resistance at the top. But true leaders, if you're reading anything in the marketplace today, you're realizing who the true leaders are, because they're coming out and saying, listen, this is the perfect time to do this, this, and this. They're not afraid. They're not holding back. So what I recommend is, if you happen to be somebody inside an organization and you want to increase your circle of influence with your leaders, this is the perfect time to put together a plan to have a discussion around it, just like I recommended to you. And those that are adverse to taking action, there's a consequence to that. You can share with them in the next 30 to 60 days, here's how I can help you visualize your entire business, or here's what we can do in the next 30 to 60 days. And that gives people, confidence we're doing something to take us out of this crisis.
And just to add to that, I'm just reading one here from Christine. Thank you for your comment. Just a bit of insight in terms of the challenge. I'm working with a company that just shut down its organizational development department as a knee-jerk reaction to having no money. Yeah. Old habits die hard. And she's spot on, because if you're not a lean thinking organization or a thinking people organization, then that's exactly what you do. You cut out all the what you would think is not value added, and it's so value added because it's what creates the value. Yeah. And so a lot of people need to hear this discussion. A lot of people need to get out there. That's one of the reasons I wrote the article. That's one of the reasons I reached out to you to put this webinar together, because I know that's happening in the industry, and I feel sorry for those that are being impacted like that, because that's not the right decisions to be made. Period. A couple more, just one slightly different here. The clash between traditional accounting as a focus and then a sort of a more progressive lean accounting view. So that kind of means that some of these short-term measures are reinforced by traditional accounting, if you see what I mean.
That is a fabulous question, and I'm not saying that because I think it is personally, but just today I had a conversation with one of my joint venture partners that we're actually going to put an article out on lean accounting and accounting for lean, because there's a huge dichotomy between those two kinds of thinking. One is a systematic way that the accountant looks at things, and then the other one is a way that you need to do accounting businesses. And so when I go into some organization to do a transformation, one of the first things that I do is I go out there and I talk to the CFOs, the controllers, if you may, because I want to know how they do their accounting. And then I want to let them know, how do you adopt productivity measures? How do you adopt saving of inventory? How do you show that in EBITDA? Because everybody uses a pencil and an eraser on those things. Yeah. So it's a great question, and it really takes more time to answer it. And I'm planning to put out an article on that with one of my joint venture partners, who is a certified CPA.
Interesting. Again, just picking up on the theme of finance driving some of these decisions in the short term. Investors wanting quick returns. That can play into the minds of people who are setting strategy. This is all about getting the results for the next quarter, right?
Yeah. So I'll take the same approach that Akio Toyota did. Okay. What he did is in his presentation is he showed from 2003 to 2008, from 2008 to 2014, from 2014 to 2020. Okay. And then to 2021. And what he showed them was, because we don't react to these blimps that are occurring right now, we are able to sustain. Even though we have some trend lines that go slightly down and some that go slightly up, in the end, we win. And so that's one of the reasons why the 12 paradigms that I teach in lean leadership, the very first one is long-term thinking. You gotta have it. You can't think quarter to quarter. And I watched companies, and I had to walk away from some of them, that we would do improvements. At the end of the quarter, they would let 50 people go. And at the beginning of the next quarter, they'd hire the 50 back. You know, that's not a lean organization. So I just had to say, bye-bye.
Shall we move on? Again, the commitment, there's lots of fantastic questions here. We'll come back to them. We'll give you a more considered answer. We'll work with DJ on that. So thank you very much for your questions and contribution to that.
So I only have 2 or 3 more slides left, and it's truly about talking about the outcome that we all should seek, the natural outcome. And it's truly about finding balance in what we do. And so in that, I'd like to share a simple slide that illustrates the power of following this 3-step formula for success. Number 1, your people are going to be more engaged. They're going to know the urgency. They're going to know why they need to do the changes or adopt new strategies or processes, because you've told them, and you know that it is going to either survive and thrive, and or we're going to go under. And so just being honest with people will allow that to happen. The second thing is the environment will improve. Why will the environment improve? Because people will start thinking about ways to better interact both virtually as well as physically within those environments. And now notice I only focused on people. I didn't focus on any other element here. So if we really want to reimagine our business, we need to take that true TPS kind of methodology that says this is about people. 80% is about people. So it's about the mindset, the ability to think, to what needs improving, to come up with the ideas, to not be afraid to say that's a problem. And just by mentioning it's a problem, also thinking of potential solutions for it. Because all of those other things that are in the background, the huddle boards, the Hijunka boxes, the end-on lights, the AGVs, the technologies that are being incorporated, those are only there to support the mindset, the behavior. And so with that, I would say focus on your people, get them involved, because that's what's going to create the balance for these natural outcomes following that plan. The other thing that I'd like to leave with you is 3 basic final thoughts, all right? And the first final thought, I think you got it. No matter if you're a small company or a big company, you need to think big. You need to think that I need oxygen for my organization. It's either going to come from cost reductions, streamlining of sales systems, or finding new channels of revenue, okay? Or doing some kind of cost avoidances. But somehow you have to find that right leverage. And there's usually about 7 financial leverages that you can attribute to be able to think big. The other thing is create that sense of urgency, no matter what. No matter where you're at in the organization, you can create a sense of urgency to move things forward, because everybody is a leader in their own right, in their own circle of influence. And so you need to create that sense of urgency and stick to it. And finally, as a leader, any leader in the organization, be insistent, persistent, and consistent with that. Don't don't go away because of the situation that's currently happening. Don't change your mind because of it. Think about how you can adopt all of these kinds of processes in your system. And in Japan, there's an old story of 3 samurai, and I would say 3 shoguns actually. And the first shogun of Japan was actually a very ruthless leader. The second shogun of Japan was actually a very smart and cunning leader. He actually rose through the ranks. So he understood people. He understood how to get them to do the things that he needed to do. And then the third shogun leader, the final one that is in the history books, he was a patient leader. And none of us are all 3 of those. But within our organization, we have to know where to be ruthless, because we are going to have to do things, smart decision making, and handle situations. But we also need to be patient. This will too change in time. Yeah. So that's the first one. The second thing that I like to leave you with is make it real. Simplicity, my folks, is best. Everything that's in your business right now, the reason why it's complicated is because people created the complexity of it. Engineers did. And that's one reason why when I go and do transformations, the first people I grab is IEs, TEs, and MEs. Because I say, listen, folks, if you can't get in your skull the difference of the flow systems and the built-in quality systems and the leveling of talent that we're going to be doing, then you need to go away. Okay? I'll take my time to coach you and mentor you, but the reality is you need to help me. And you have already created this system, so now we need to change this system. The second thing is the intent to influence. You gotta be able to listen to both the employees as well as the customers on what the intent is of your simplicity that you're going to create. And the last but not least, incentivize it. I always tell my clients, if you have 10% savings in this one department or this one area of the value stream, put another percent back to that value stream, because they need to feel that what their ideas are implemented, even though they feel good because it is being implemented, that something's coming back to them that makes their place even better. Okay? And the last thought that I'll leave you with regards to sharing some of this wisdom is build your capability. And when I say this, I mean this from the bottom of my heart, and it's not because I'm an expert. It's because I've come in not first in organizations. I'm always the 3rd, 4th, or 5th consultant down the road. And then people realize this guy understands how to do this for real. And what I'm saying to you is learn from real experts. I'm still learning. I have 4 people that are constantly teaching me. Every week, somebody's sharing something new with me, okay? So learn from those experts and build that confidence. The second thing there is also focus in on building your ambassadors. Build a core group to sustain whatever activity you are. So that way, once one person leaves, the system doesn't fall. And it cannot be the CEO. Even though he's promoting it and he's going to the Gemba and he's doing all the right things, it cannot just be the CEO. In fact, pointing up there is a waste of time. You should point always to here. What can I do? How can I build this core ambassadorships? Yeah. Then create risk-free environments so that people can challenge their ideas. Walk in there, try them out, because the teach, do, learn mentality is so powerful with the TPS system. And last but not least, for those that are out there trying to protect those budgets and so forth, there are no sacred cows. Everybody must do the engagement. So you can't say HR is just going to hire the right people. Nope. They've got to streamline their processes, the way they do things. You can't just say the warehouse is going to streamline their processes. Nope. They're going to have to reorganize their skill set so they're multi-skilled and multi-processed. So make sure that there's no sacred cows throughout the entire transformation or the engagement in this short period of time, 30 to 60 days. And with that, what I'd like to say to you is, we can pose a question, but we're up on time here at 51 minutes. I'd just like to say, lean takes practice, not just understanding. A lot of the people I engage with, they're very smart. They've got, MBAs and PhDs, and they've read every book, they saw every video, but none of them have done this. They haven't gone to the Gemba, they haven't executed, and that's why they call on people like me. And that's why my organization exists today. So just remember, take your time to learn, take your time to engage strategically, take your time to do digital solutions that help that strategy, and build the talent of your capabilities, of your people. Yeah. Is that
That
good?
was amazing. Way better than good. Mike, my colleague Mike Dennison, and most of you who are on this call probably know Mike already because he presented one of our previous webinars. He's just made a really interesting point. We're going to be sending the recording out of this to everybody who's dialed in and registered for this webinar. Everybody, including myself, needs to watch all this again because you have packed so much into that sort of 45, 50 minutes, DJ. Some of the depth and richness of that probably wouldn't have been caught the first time around, you know, and it's only when you go back and watch it again that there'll be that kind of aha, yeah, I know exactly what I can do with that. So whether you're a leader in the environment where you've got to take this challenge, you know, and bring it into your organization in the right way in terms of engaging your people, or if you're kind of more a bit like me that has to work with those people to facilitate that change and to influence them and to get the buy-in, there's so much we can take away for that. So
yeah, and, you know, I really wanted to take some time on the strategy thing and talk about Hoshin Connery, talk about, you know, the lean outcome trees, but I realized where we were at in time, so I didn't get involved with that. But I will write something up, make sure I send it with the group so that they get those insights as well.
Perfect. And everybody's got your contact details there. I know that you're on LinkedIn as well, so there's a LinkedIn profile there. I think I first came across DJ on LinkedIn, and you know, follow him. He's got lots of interesting stuff to say on there. So that's another way that we can all keep in touch. We will be back with some of the answers to these questions. I think there was 25 questions there. We probably answered 5 or 6 of those. So we'll talk to you, DJ, about how we can best do that for the group. So thanks to everybody again for that. And just finally, just want to say another big thank you on behalf of everybody on the webinar to DJ for an excellent presentation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks everybody for dialing in today. Again, I think I say it every time, but good luck to everybody in these difficult times. Stay safe and look after each other. Take care. Bye-bye.